he throws punches in slow motion.
Just tries to throw anything that he can, flailing at his opponent.
This is bizarre stuff. Almost looks like a rock'em sock'em robot. And Tim.
Who is the worst boxer of all time? It began as an innocent Google search. Not because I'm a massive boxing fan or anything like that, mostly because when I'm procrastinating from doing real work, I spend time looking up random nonsense. I just wanted to kill some time watching funny compilations of awkward amateurs flailing around in the ring, and I definitely did that. But when you search worst boxers of all time, you'll find that a certain name keeps popping up in the results.
Here is Mr. Reliable from the nation, Christian Late.
Christian Late, the man who holds the record for the most losses in a professional boxing career. He retired in 2018 with a record of 12 wins, 9 draws, and 279 losses. That record seemed completely absurd to me. I had to know more. And it turns out there's so much more to Christian Late and people like him than just being bad boxers.
Would it be disingenuous to call you a professional loser?
Young boxers with these impressive records don't appear out of nowhere. They had to fight somebody.
So I just did the math, definitely just now in my head, and figured out that Christian Late lost 93% of his fights. He lost so consistently that he earned himself the cheeky nickname Mr. Reliable.
Here is Mr. Reliable.
Which I think is borderline rude. Another name I saw a lot was Johnny Greaves, who lost 96% of his fights. He lost 96 out of 100 matches. Easier math on that one. And actually, I learned that there are a lot of fighters who could be in this conversation. Donnie Pendleton, 167 losses. Peter Buckley, 256 losses. Reggie Strickland, 276 losses. Seamus Casey, 129 losses. Jason Nesbitt, 198 losses. How is it possible that so many supposed professionals are this bad at boxing? Surely the law of averages has to come into play at some point. I had to see these terrible boxers in action. Now, I'm more of a casual fan, not super hardcore, so I don't necessarily notice all the nuances of proper technique, but I think I can generally tell when someone is an unskilled fighter. The rise of influencer boxing has given us no shortage of that. And so I watched footage of these so-called worst boxers ever and became even more confused. Here's Christian Late in action. I gotta say, it doesn't feel like I'm watching one of the worst boxers ever. I mean, it's no Floyd Mayweather, but it looks pretty normal. I wouldn't get in the ring with him. So what's the deal? Are they really that bad? I was fully in a rabbit hole at this point. And it turns out these boxers might actually be quite good, just not in the way you might think. For a pro boxer, the goal is basically to climb the ranks and eventually become a championship contender. To reach contender status, boxers need a lot of experience, a winning record, and they need to avoid major injuries along the way. So a long time ago, promoters developed a solution for up-and-coming boxers to meet all of these criteria. Find a new rival by stepping in the ring with what the boxing world calls journeymen. The term journeyman is borrowed from the world of manual labor. In that context, it usually means a person who is good enough at what they do to make a living, but haven't quite reached the level of a master tradesman. But in boxing, journeymen often serve a very specific purpose.
The implicit understanding, it's not an explicit thing, but the implicit understanding is that the journeyman is not there to win. I was diplomatic about it before, but to be clear, what happens is that boxing promoters book easy fights for their prospects to pad their records and make them more marketable so the company can sell more tickets to future events. It's our old friend capitalism. Everybody say hi. No, because what it is, and here's the key point, people assume that boxing is a sport, and it isn't, it's a business. Frank Bruno famously called it show business with blood. I don't think most boxers set out to become journeymen. I imagine at the beginning, everyone dreams of what could be. Maybe they believe with the right amount of training and dedication, they could become a champion one day. But some fighters are just built different.
And there's that left hand, and he's down again. He's up against the ropes. Lomachenko, the fastest in history to become a 3-division world champ.
Some boxers have more resources, more discipline, better management, or purely better genetics. Not everybody can be a champion. It's just an unfortunate truth. And when a fighter realizes that they're not the chosen one,
I'm not sure he's the special, actually.
there's still the matter of how they're going to keep putting food on the table. So they might start accepting any fights they're offered just for the cash. And over time, that tends to mean that they're signing up to lose. What makes it worse is that once you become a journeyman, it's very hard to dig yourself out. If you become a guy that's paid to lose, winning becomes a risky career move.
If you're a promoter or a manager, you don't want their lad fighting somebody with a winning record or somebody with the intentions of coming to win. If you go to win and a draw next to each other, I didn't get any work for 5 or 6 months.
But the journeyman is definitely pulling the shortest straw because they're not exactly swimming in cash. The best fighters in the world can make tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars per fight, which is kind of crazy. But journeymen usually make somewhere between a couple hundred and a couple thousand. And a lot of that money will immediately be spent on things like training, management, or equipment. And what I realized is that if you want to make a decent living doing this, you have to fight a lot. Christian Late fought 300 times over 15 years. That's an average of 20 fights every year. That's like 1 every 2 weeks. And at that point, the main question I now had was, isn't getting punched in the face that often like super dangerous? But if you think about it, for the journeyman, it's not only physically dangerous, it's also financially risky. Because if you didn't know, under most boxing organizations, if you get knocked out or have a major injury, they put you on a forced medical suspension, which makes sense. But that could translate into months without work, which could be devastating. So ironically, if a journeyman wants to have a long career, they actually have to become pretty damn good at boxing, at least the defensive aspect of it. They have to protect themselves so they can keep working. So the more I was looking into this, I actually started getting a little bummed out. I don't know, it just seems like it could be a tough life. I'm imagining this person who found a passion for boxing at a young age and probably put a lot of time and money into like training and stuff like that, and probably started out with big dreams, like who knows what could happen, maybe I could be a champion someday. And then they learn that they are literally not good enough. I don't know if there's a better way to say it. The thing is, boxing ends up being the main or only thing a lot of these people know how to do. So that's their job. And so they just end up losing for a living. And the only time they're ever acknowledged is in some article or some Reddit thread about the worst boxers of all time.
I thought I could actually do something, you know, be some sort of champion. It dawned on me probably after about the 5th fight, I weren't going to be a champion, that was for sure.
But then I found out that a lot of these guys don't see it that way at all.
And I'll never tell the kids that, you know, Daddy went out and won all these times, because I didn't. I'll tell them that when they was young and babies and they needed clothes on their back and food down their necks, Daddy went out and done it in the toughest way imaginable. There's no other tougher way in the world than what I went through to feed my kids. So hopefully I'd like to think that they give me a little bit of respect for that.
There's real pride in it for you, isn't there?
Massive pride.
Yeah.
Massive pride.
I'm sure some of these guys find the life of a journeyman too challenging and decide to quit, but a lot of them don't. A lot of them show up week after week to mostly lose. And yeah, they do it for the money, but they also do it because they love it, because boxing is what they do and what they're passionate about. Christian Late retired from boxing in 2018 at the age of 38, and he described his time as a boxer fondly. It was a fantastic job, the best job I'll ever have. And Christian understood and embraced his role in the business. He actually had Mr. Reliable stitched into his trunks. He understood the assignment. I love this clip of Christian finishing a match. He has no disappointment whatsoever. He congratulates the other corner and then triumphantly raises his own hands, even though he didn't win. He lost the fight, but he completed his job masterfully. He got through it unharmed, he entertained an audience, and he helped another fighter pursue their dreams. Now he gets to collect his money and safely return home to his loved ones. And I gotta say, that kind of sounds like a victory in my book. Apparently, journeymen are sometimes controversial in the boxing community. Some people think it's dishonest to casual fans who pay their hard-earned money to watch what they believe is a fair fight. Some people think journeymen solely fight for the money and don't really try in the ring. But as far as I can tell, most diehard fans accept it as an important part of a well-established boxing culture. I learned that journeymen are the backbone of professional boxing. The sport pretty much doesn't work without them. It's yet another industry where the people lowest on the totem pole are the ones that really keep the whole thing from crumbling down. Every champion you see in those million-dollar fights on television was prepared for that moment by a supporting cast of journeymen. The underappreciated, underpaid, unsung heroes of professional boxing. And that's what happens when I go down an internet rabbit hole.